All right, welcome in, everybody. This is somewhat of a version of In the Paint for Altitude digital platforms, but we're calling DMAC. We're calling this the Free Agency Frenzy podcast
I
that we
love
got
it.
going on because, my God, man, the Denver
Wow.
Nuggets are wheeling and dealing, and
It's
this is
awesome.
absolutely crazy. So, first of all,
Yeah.
DMAC was nice enough to join me up in Copper, where he's at. Copper's awesome. So, D, since you weren't on the radio with us today, before we
Yeah.
kind of get into all the moves they made, I just want to sort of get your initial reaction over the past 24 hours of what we've seen from the Denver Nuggets, and how much do you think they've improved this team?
Well, can I call Jonas Valanciunas? Oh man. Can I just call him
Valanciunas.
Valanciunas?
There you go.
Valanciunas.
Valanciunas.
Or does he just go by Big Val, which would mean we would have two Vals here,
Ooh.
but
I saw Ryan
Valanciunas.
Green say it's Val Arena now, not Ball Arena.
That's a good one.
It is a good one.
Dan, how in the world did you trade a sack of wet potatoes for 24 pounds of gold? I don't get it. I don't know how this happened.
A miracle occurred in the last 24 hours.
All right.
You're talking about Saric for Valanciunas, I'm assuming, correct?
Yes. I mean, let's start. There's so much, but let's start there. How did this happen?
Well,
I mean, I don't even get it.
The Kings, I would have to guess this is just money-wise. They're making the money work. This is sort of a salary dump.
Okay.
I highly doubt that the Kings will end up keeping Dario Saric. I think this is going to be one of those cases where it just worked out financially for them, because in a typical trade, if this was truly a one-for-one sort of deal, you're not trading Jonas Valanciunas for Dario Saric straight up, because he is a massive upgrade, by the way. And DMAC, let me just say this. I have been saying on this show for years, begging the Nuggets to go get a legitimate backup center for Nikola Jokic. And Valanciunas is a legitimate backup center with Nikola Jokic. He's a guy that they can throw into the starting lineup. If you want to give Joker a rest night, he can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
But they finally have the depth they need to pair with the Joker at the center spot.
All right, let me just ask you questions because you're so much smarter than me on all this stuff. What are the red flags with Big Val?
Injury concerns are definitely always there, but that's with every big man.
How serious is that?
I would say.
You go age, injury, whatever, right?
Yeah, I would put it at like I would say like a 6 out of 10. But the good thing for the Nuggets and with Valanciunas is he's not going to be playing big time minutes with Nikola Jokic on that team. So the Nuggets will have the ability to sort of spread out his minutes throughout the season. But I'm telling you, just really quick, going back to what this does for Nikola Jokic, DMAC, and one of the reasons I was so pumped with them trading for Jonas Valanciunas, you don't have to play Nikola Jokic 40 minutes a night anymore in the regular season.
Right.
They don't have to do that. I mean, they are literally, by this move, going to be taking away, 4 or 5 games off of Nikola's body from what he's used to playing without a legitimate backup center. And, we all love DJ, and for various reasons. He's a great leader in the locker room. Like, all the off the court stuff is great. But let's be honest, man. On the court, he didn't really give you a whole lot of value. Valanciunas does. So I'm just excited to see not only how this will affect the second unit, which we'll get into here in a second. My God, is the bench going to be better next year? DMAC, holy cow. It is going to be night and day compared to what it was this year.
Right.
But the mileage it's going to take off of Joker's body from previous seasons where he had to play big time minutes, that's what I'm most excited about with this move. I think that's really the key cog in all of this. Is it's going to allow Nikola Jokic to stay fresh throughout the regular season and into the playoffs. So, and by the way, we're getting into a situation where come playoff time next year, barring health, knock it on wood, Joker's not going to have these 40 plus, 45 plus minute games, even in the playoffs, because I think that's how legitimate Valanciunas can be at the backup center position. So there is, so many things that goes into why I love this trade for the Nuggets.
Well, again, getting rid of Saric, period, who of course opted into his contract. Why wouldn't he? Is just remarkable for what we didn't get out of Dario Saric. So, you know what? One thing we forget is the cash-strapped nature, Dan, of other teams. We become sort of obsessed with our own team, and we don't think about what everybody else is going through. Now, the Nets clearly, who had 5 first-round draft picks, clearly they probably don't have enough money on their books in order to get to where they need to be. So I suppose that's where the Michael Porter Jr. deal goes. I don't think the Nets are thinking about anything with Michael Porter Jr. for the future, but a lot of money helps them if they have so many younger players and they're truly rebuilding all over again. And we did talk, to be fair to us, Dan, we did talk about trading Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson at the trade deadline. We were on it.
Scott brought that up today. Scott brought that up today on our show when we had him on in our first segment. He's like, I brought this up months ago, and I was sitting there nodding in agreement. I'm like, Scott absolutely nailed this one. So
I remember I even remember the conversations back then, because we were like, well, this isn't going to blow your socks off because Cam Johnson hadn't finished his season either. And although he had some good time there in Phoenix, it wasn't like, oh my God, he's definitely better than Michael Porter Jr. But when you look at the season he ended up having now, I am a little bit nervous about only playing 57 out of 82 games. I mean, that just worries me just a pinch. But he's such a better fit for what the Nuggets are theoretically trying to do while scoring, I mean, Dan, virtually the same amount of points per game as Michael Porter Jr. I don't know if Cam Johnson will ever have that, like, take over the game, 30-point, blah, 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 blah. But I think you could pencil him for 16 to 20 every game.
Sure, but we never saw that out of Michael Porter Jr. either. It's not like the Nuggets are losing that guy that had the ability to take over games and score 30 plus a night. I mean, how many times did Michael Porter Jr. go for 30 or more points in this last season? I think it was, I believe he had 3 in a row right before the All-Star break. But that was about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. So and we could call that time the time of slugs, like the time that nobody even wanted, as we found out later, because they wanted to fire Michael Malone, right? And they couldn't because they won too many games in a row before the All-Star break. And that was kind of that's when MPJ went for 33 straight games. I don't know, man. I think it's great. I like Michael Porter Jr. I am a huge Michael Porter Jr. fan. He's a good dude. He was always great to the media. I mean, he is part of some huge moments at Ball Arena, Dan. Just some amazing, amazing moments. So I'm happy for him, I guess. I mean, happy for him. Maybe I'm not, I don't know if he's happy. He goes to a team that it's probably a tough deal for Michael Porter Jr., don't you think?
Yeah, he's making 38 mil this year, 40 mil next year. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's the thing, D-Mac. The Nuggets saved $40 million by making that trade. So, okay, here's why I love and look, I'm with you, man. Crazy. Like, Michael had some great moments. And you know what's frustrating with Michael? When you see that guy play, you see him shoot. And you and I go to all the games. We cover all the games. I used to go. I'll go early just to watch Michael shoot around, because I'll tell you what, man, he has the prettiest jump shot in the NBA. I mean, it is just pure. So it's a treat to watch him shoot the basketball. He just never reached that next level with the Nuggets. Like, he never reached that level, like we were just kind of talking about, where he could be the guy that could take over a game. He never reached the level where I thought he needed to develop his handles, and he just never was able to really do so. He never developed an ability to take guys off the dribble one-on-one. These are all things that Cam Johnson can do and excel at. So here's sort of kind of my take on this whole thing, just real quick. With the moves the Nuggets made in the last 24 hours, my take is that Josh Kroenke and everybody around the Nuggets front office looked at not only this year's playoffs, but last year's playoffs too, and the year they won the championship. And I guarantee you, D-Mac, they were sitting around saying, we have to have depth to win a title. That's what they had in 2023 when they were able to win their first championship. They didn't have it last year, and they didn't have it this year. Look at the two teams that were in the NBA Finals this year, Indiana and OKC. What did both of those teams have? Depth.
Tremendous depth.
And tremendous depth. That's what you need, especially in the new era, the new CBA. You've got to have depth. That's what the Nuggets focused on. Will their starting five even take a dip? I don't know. I mean, Cam Johnson's
probably not.
Pretty close replacement. So here's what I like about Cam, okay?
Okay.
I would say he's right up there as far as being a potent shooter with Michael Porter Jr. He might be an inch behind, but he's right up there.
Just a little bit. It's just a little behind.
It's a pinch behind, but he's a fantastic outside shooter. He's far more talented off the dribble, like I just talked about. And he's much more reliable defensively. Sure. These are the three areas that so the shooting, it'll roughly stay the same. But if you need a guy to go one-on-one off the dribble, he can do that. Michael could not.
Yeah.
You need a guy to be reliable on the defensive end. He can do that. Michael could not. So I'll tell you what, man.
Right.
This new dynamic duo the Nuggets have in their front office, there were a lot of question marks surrounding them when they hired them just a couple of weeks ago. We had them on our show. They are absolutely crushing it right now. Crushing it.
Well, and there's some other interesting moments as Billups comes as a, oh my gosh,
Rodney Billups.
I'm sliding on the first name. Rodney Billups, of course.
Yep.
And JJ Barea comes along as an assistant coach. And now you see some consensus in terms of where we're at, what we need to do. I mean, I don't mean to toot our own horn, Dan, but we were talking about 4. How many times did we talk about there's 4 spots that the Nuggets have to replace in the offseason? Now, we just assumed who was going to be gone. Saric would be gone, Westbrook would be gone, DJ would be gone, and I'm forgetting there's somebody else that we were quite convinced was not going to be there anymore. But we were convinced that there were going to be 4 spots. And the addition of Hardaway Jr., love it. A vet off the bench. What's he, 39% from free? Okay. Hey, man, that's cool. I'd rather give that a shot than Hunter Tyson. You know, if we're bringing a guy off the bench, and Hunter Tyson's not gone. He's still around. Trey Alexander not being picked up was kind of like, what's going on? Now I think I understand that a little bit better because this was their goal. And they get, now they're below the second apron. They have more money to spend. And they bring on Bruce Brown. So much for looking for somebody like Bruce Brown. Let's just bring back Bruce Brown.
Just get the guy.
just get Bruce Brown
real quick,
back.
D-Mac. Going back to Tim Hardaway. Yeah. Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah.
Get this. Yeah. He made 63% of his open spot-up three-point attempts last season. 63% of his open spot-up three-point attempts. He was 36 for 57 on open spot-up threes. Guess who's one of the best dudes in the NBA creating open spot-up threes? Nikola Jokic. So they got another knockdown shooter. You know, he'll be competing with Brucey B and Julian Strawther coming off the bench. I think the Nuggets are a significantly, not a little bit better, significantly better basketball team right now than they were 24 hours ago. All right, we got KJ on here as well. KJ Granderson, producer of the Morning Sprint, 10 to noon, Altitude Sports Radio. KJ, D-Mac and I were just talking about the wild last 24 hours that the Nuggets have been wheeling and dealing. Just sort of your initial thoughts on the moves we've seen them make over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, I think to simply put it, I mean, this is going to go down as one of the greatest off seasons in Nuggets history. We've never seen them get this compilation of shooters, this compilation of bench players, this compilation of just camaraderie all in one off season. And it's all aligned with one vision. It's not one or two. It's not two or three. It's not three or four. It's all one vision now. And the fact that it's actually playing out this way, the way they imagined it, the way they dreamt it, the way that they envisioned it, the way that they slept that night on their bed, and now it has finally come to fruition. I think this is just amazing. Listen, we love Bruce Brown, love the Cam Johnson trade. Obviously, we love the Jonas Valanciunas trade. And then you get Tim Hardaway Jr. I mean, to me, this has been an A++. I don't think there's anything else that they could do now to get them over the hump. Now, I know I've heard some people say, well, what about a backup point guard? Personally, I could see a world where Bruce Brown is the backup point guard moving forward.
What about Jalen Pickett?
You got Jalen Pickett as well. You got options here. You don't need to go anywhere else. Again, the bridge of the veterans is just a bridge. You still got to develop the young players. So Jalen Pickett, to me, I thought he did enough last year to at least get a shot early on in the season. Then we'll see from what happens from there.
Okay, let me ask you guys this, and I've been thinking about this a lot today. And look, I'm not trying to throw dirt or rake Calvin Booth over the coals, but I got to tell you, man, this is not the best of looks for Calvin Booth because we got past the trade deadline this year. They didn't make a single move, which at the time, like, I understood it. There wasn't a whole lot they could have done, but we also heard that quite a bit going into the offseason. Well, what are the Nuggets able to do? They're not able to do much. You're going to have to trade one of the core four. Well, it turns out they did that. Does this make Calvin Booth look bad in your guys' estimation as far as, not being able to get these moves done?
Dan, you should save
Do you
this
need to
moment
evacuate
for
the
podcast.
building?
There's an emergency. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
I
We can hear
apologize.
it.
That's all right.
You can't hear that.
Yes. Sounds like a
I have
fire
to
alarm's
leave.
going off. You have to leave.
There's an emergency, but
Oh my
it's
goodness.
it's not a fire alarm, but it's an emergency, and they're telling us to leave the building right now.
Okay.
I have to go. This is bizarre.
All right.
Good.
We'll jump back on if
yeah,
you let us
Calvin
know
Booth,
you're
tough
safe,
luck.
man.
I gotta go.
Okay.
I apologize. I love
It's
you,
all
KJ.
good.
Dan, I love you.
Get out of there, man. Go.
I'm gonna bring the rest of my bottle, but
All right.
I gotta go.
All right, D-Mac.
Adios, adios,
Stay safe.
amigos.
I'll remove
Bye.
you. All right, man. Get out of there. Here goes D-Mac. Wow, that is what is going on there?
I don't
He's
know,
getting kicked
dude.
out.
I know
He's
I
up in
kept
Copper
hearing
Mountain.
it, and I kept trying to talk over it, but I was like, dude, this is kind of
Oh, yeah.
messing
I
with
was
me.
like, KJ can definitely hear this, no doubt about it. All right, KJ, but yeah, I was kind of curious your guys' thoughts on
Calvin
is this a bad look for Calvin Booth? Well, let me ask it this way. Do you think if Calvin Booth was still the GM of the Nuggets, we'd be seeing the flurry of activity that we have witnessed over the last 24 hours?
No, I think he would have gotten maybe one veteran, maybe via trade or via free agency, and that's it. He would have sat on his hands because he would have kept MPJ, if we're being honest. And
You think he would have kept MPJ?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, look, he's all about keeping the core together. Now, again, I didn't know how much the new regime was about keeping the core four together. Calvin Booth was all about it. Michael Malone was all about it. That's for sure. One thing they had in common was keeping the core together. Okay, so
Yeah.
I don't think he would have traded MPJ if I'm being extremely honest. So he would have added one veteran on a vet minimum, and then that literally would have been it. And we would have been sitting here again talking about why didn't the Nuggets do more? How serious are they taking Nikola Jokic's championship window? I'm glad we're not saying that now, but with Calvin Booth at the helm, and if he were still here, should I say, that would definitely be the topic of conversation at this exact moment.
I think, and I told DMAC this before you came on, KJ, and sort of my take on the last 24 hours is basically this. I think the Kroenke family and any and everybody in the Nuggets organization sat back the last couple of years and looked at the team that was able to win a title in 23. They looked at what happened last year, getting knocked out by the Timberwolves in round 2, seeing the Celtics go on to win the title last year, and then this year, seeing the two teams that were in the NBA Finals the Indiana Pacers, and the Oklahoma City Thunder. What do all of those teams have in common? They all were extremely deep. They all had not just good depth, great depth. And I think Josh sat back and said, this team is not going to be able to win a title as it's currently constructed. We have to be able to go get depth pieces. And I would have to imagine when he was interviewing the dynamic duo, the Tenzer Wallace duo, these are I would imagine that these were conversations that Josh had with them in the interview process. Like,
Agreed.
What is your vision to get this team deeper? And you know what's so remarkable about what these guys just pulled off is, I just told DMAC this. The starting five, are they going to be any worse next season? I don't think so. I think the starting five will be just as good as it was last year. And it was excellent last year.
Yeah.
When Aaron Gordon was healthy and you know, the team was healthy. The starting five is one of the best in the NBA. I don't think you're going to get a big drop off with Cam Johnson replacing Michael Porter. I don't.
I don't either.
But the bench, KJ, my God, is this bench deep?
This bench is probably one of the better benches they've had in like a very long time. Like,
do you think it's a better bench than in 2023? So you had Jeff Green, Bruce Brown, and Christian. It was Christian at the time. That was come playoff time. That was their bench rotation. Do you think this bench, this newly constructed bench, can be better than the 2023 season where they won a title? Because I think it's honestly quite significantly better.
I do as well. And I also think it's better because of what you're asking of them, right? Like, the bench that we were asking during the championship season was the same bench we were asking for since 2019. Don't lose the lead that Nikola Jokic and the starters have built, right? Now, that's no longer a thing now. Now we have a bench that's compiled together, top to bottom, that now we're no longer asking them not to blow it. We're asking them, hey, there are going to be some games we're going to need you to increase it, right? This is the first time we've been able to put that level of expectation on this bench with this version of the Nuggets ever. We haven't been able to put this level of expectation on the Nuggets bench since the 08-09 season, back when Melo and the guys went to the Western Conference Finals, right? And so looking at where we are today, this bench is significantly better. And I think if they produce the way that we all think that they will, we'll look back and say this may be the best bench in Nuggets history. No hyperbole.
Yeah, Iggy on the comment section says this is the best bench Jokic has ever had. I couldn't agree with you more, Iggy. This to me is probably just the best team overall in the Jokic era. I mean, KJ, think about 24 hours ago to now. The Nuggets were a fringe Western Conference title team, right?
Right.
I would say on the fringe. I mean, they got to 7 games in round 2, so they're right there.
Yeah.
This puts them right back in contention with OKC. I really do think it will be OKC and the Denver Nuggets next year vying for the 1 spot in the Western Conference with the moves they made. They are just as deep now as the Oklahoma City Thunder are. The fact that they were able to pull that off this quickly without any draft picks this year. Let's not forget that too, man. We just saw the NBA draft where the Nuggets literally had 0 draft picks. Okay? And we heard the Tenzer Wallace duo. They had a presser after the draft and they said, well, it was after the first round actually, because they were being asked if they're going to try to move into round 2. They said they were somewhat close, but they didn't end up doing that, which I thought was the right move, by the way, because they need all the assets they can get.
Right.
But they were able to improve the team strictly through free agency and trades without a draft pick. I'll tell you what, there were a lot of question marks surrounding Tenzer and Wallace. They're both young. They're both a little inexperienced.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, man, and Nuggets fans, you should feel the same way. You should be a lot more confident in these two guys after what we witnessed over the last 24 hours. It's been remarkable what they've done.
Man, I agree 1,000%. I hope Nuggets Nation recognize what has been done by the John Wallace and Ben Tenzer brain trust here with the Nuggets. And, at the end of the day, like, we didn't know if this was going to work or not, but to see the fruits of his labor so early, so soon, has definitely been refreshing, to say the least. Will it continue? Only time will tell, right? But at the end of the day, to kind of see that we have competent guys in the front office and to see that we have people that we can rely on, people that we can trust, people that we feel that are that have the mindset to build a team as one, that they are looking to go this way, not one guy hoping to go that way and then one guy hoping to go this way. It's two guys going the same direction. No guy's trying to overstep the other. No guy is trying to overtalk the other. You have one guy who has one role. How can I get the players here? And then you have one guy who has the other role. Once they're here, how can I make sure that they stay here, that they maximize their time here? I think that mindset, that thinking, that perspective is exactly what the Nuggets needed. So when we talk about a culture shift, Josh Kroenke had a vision in mind for the culture shift he wanted, and he's gotten it thus far. And I got to give Josh Kroenke an A+ on making sure that the culture he wanted has gotten off to a great start thus far.
Michael Malone's got to be so furious right now. Like seeing all these moves they're making.
Dude, this is what he's been begging for years.
I feel for him in that sense. And look, it was obviously we all know what went on between he and Calvin Booth. It was they barely talked. They did not get along. Calvin wanted Michael to play the young guys. Michael said they're not good enough. And then Calvin would say, well, it's your job to get them good enough, and so that dynamic was there. Mm-hmm. That's gone, right? So I would really be curious if Malone were to have stayed, but they let Calvin go, if they would have been making all of these same moves. Like, would Malone have given the okay or his blessing, if you will? I mean, ultimately, it's not up to him. It's up to Tenzer and Wallace, right? Like, it's their call. But that was one of the things that popped into my head today of like, man, Michael Malone seeing all this, he has just got to be pulling his hair out right now. Going, why couldn't you have done this last year? But yeah, so that was one of the thoughts I had. But KJ, I was talking to DMAC about this earlier. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this. So one of my favorite things about the Valanciunas trade was, well, number one, just getting rid of Dario Saric, because he was just a big fat dud. And I'm not trying to be mean to Dario, but he was. It was just, it didn't work out. It didn't work out. It just didn't work out. How many times have you and I talked about this? I've been saying this for years on this show, begging the Nuggets to go get a legitimate backup center. I mean, all season long, I'd say, if this team does anything at the trade deadline, go get a backup center. They finally did it. They finally got, and I would say the last like legitimate backup center they had to Nikola Jokic would have been Mason Plumlee.
Agreed.
What was that? Over 5 years ago now? Mm-hmm. I mean, Boogie had a little stint where he was okay, but the last like legitimate long-term backup center was Mason Plumlee. We've gone 5+ years without that. They have it now. And one of my favorite parts about bringing in Valanciunas, KJ, Joker's not going to have to play 38, 40, 42 minutes a night in the regular season.
Nope.
They can play him 32, 33, 34 minutes. If you do that over the course of an 82-game regular season, if you extrapolate that out, you're going to save 5 to 7 regular season games off the body of the Joker, right? And come playoff time, that's only going to benefit this team. And not only Nikola Jokic, but with the added depth, guess who's not going to have to play 40+ minutes every night in the regular season also? Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray. Like these guys, when they're fresh and healthy and good to go in the playoffs, we've seen what they can do. Yep. But the last 2 years, they haven't been able to do that because Malone, whether it was his fault or not, ran these guys into the ground. There's no doubt about it. So now with all these added depth pieces, they finally have the ability to sort of game manage or load manage players in games. You know what I'm saying? And that's quite honestly, that has probably been my favorite thing about what's transpired over the last 24 hours is the fact that specifically with Nikola Jokic, everybody else is going to benefit too, but with the Joker, you only have to play him 32, 34 minutes a night. Now, granted, look, there will be games where they're going to need him in there for 40 plus minutes. That's just how the NBA is.
Right.
But they're not going to have to do that every night. And that's quite honestly one of my favorite things about what we've witnessed over the last 24 hours.
No, I agree 1,000%. I mean, just keeping them fresh is going to be very important. Now, I'm not trying to come off as hot takey, but if the Nuggets do what I think they're capable of, and if things click on all cylinders like we expect it to, he could have a 2014, 2015, 2015, 2016 Warriors type of season from the perspective of there will be more fourth quarters he won't have to play than he originally expected if things go as planned, right? So with that being the case, if Jokic, let's say in an 82-game season, let's say he load manages 6 of those games. So, okay, now we're talking about 76. Of those 76, let's say he doesn't have to play in 15 fourth quarters. That's 61 games he did not have to play in the fourth quarter, combined with the fact that Jonas Valanciunas took minutes off of him in the first, second, and third quarters in some shape, form, or fashion. I mean, what would life be like with a fresh Nikola Jokic? When was the last time we saw a fresh Nikola Jokic outside of the bubble?
I would say the playoffs in 2023.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's so incredible about the Joker is even when he is being run into the ground, he's still just awesome. But there is
because he's a machine.
He is a machine. He is, and I give all the credit in the world to Joker. It was what was it, their first or second playoff series in the Joker era where. Or no, it might have been after game 82 against the Wolves. I can't remember. But there was early on in Joker's career, KJ, he was a little out of shape. There's no doubt about it. And he went to the Nuggets brass and said, you'll never see me out of shape again. You'll never see me tired on the court again because I'm going to put in the work. And to his credit, he has been able to do that. He is in such good condition that he's able to play big time minutes, which is great. But at some point, he's going to wear down a little bit. Now, worn down Nikola Jokic is still the best player in the game, but giving him rest periodically throughout the season and having him truly fresh for the playoffs, and with Jamal Murray too. I mean, how big of a difference is it when Jamal is fresh, healthy, ready to go, specifically, and Aaron Gordon? My God, has this team been beat down, dude? Holy cow. So I'm absolutely thrilled with what they've done. I don't think this team got a little bit better. I think they got a lot better. I mean, significantly better, to the point where I'll just be honest with you. I'll be honest with our listeners. As the Nuggets were constituted earlier this week, even, I was like, this team doesn't have a chance to win a title. They are right there with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Pacers. We'll see what they look like next year. Miles Turner is gone. Halliburton's probably not going to be back next year. So we'll see what they look like. It's them and Oklahoma City are probably going to be the two favorites to win the title, not just to get out of the West. Throw in the Houston Rockets. They're going to have Durant. I have question marks surrounding that.
Coming out of the East, you got to throw in the Knicks.
To be on par with the Nuggets and the Thunder?
To at least be serious title contenders.
I think they can get out of the East, but I think they're a tier below the Thunder and the Nuggets at this point.
Okay. Well, the only reason I hesitate there is because they did get Yabusele and they got Jordan Clarkson. I mean, we're talking about two bona fide scorers, two bona fide dogs coming off the bench. So I don't want to dismiss them. And they added those two players to what they already had from last year. So I don't just want to dismiss it as if it's not a possibility. Not to mention, we've seen, especially over the last 2 seasons, the Knicks love to kick the Nuggets' butt all up and down the court. So,
yeah, Iggy on the comment section saying the Nuggets are plus 1,100 to win it all. The Rockets are still ahead of them. Iggy, if you could put in the Rockets, what their odds are, I would be curious. And that he says that was about an hour ago. I mean, that's fine, but
I don't know the number exactly off the top of my head, but when I checked DraftKings earlier today, the Rockets were second behind OKC.
I'm not as high on the Rockets as a lot of other people are.
I'm not either.
Kevin Durant, I mean, he's still an elite basketball player. Okay, don't get me wrong, but he's what, 37? They just got rid of Jalen Green. You know, he's in Phoenix now. I think the Rockets are still a year or so away from being true competitors, and I like what they're doing. I mean, Alperen Şengün is baby Joker. You know, he really is. I'm a big fan of Alperen Şengün. I don't think he's going to get to the level of Nikola Jokic, but he has the ability to, I would say, get to the level of somebody like Domantas Sabonis, you know, somebody like that. I think he can get to that level. I'm high on the Rockets, just not for this upcoming season. And when I say the Nuggets and the Thunder are the two teams that are, in my opinion, have the best chances to win a title next year, that's just for next year, right? I mean, Hardaway and Bruce Brown just signed 1-year deals. So the bench could look different after this season. But here's the thing, man. Yep. And, you know, I've kind of been wrestling with this, KJ, going back and forth with the Nuggets' lack of draft assets over the next really 7-8 years. When you're in the Joker era, who cares? Who cares about these draft picks? Honestly, unless it's going to net them a veteran that can come in and help them win now, I couldn't really care less about. Would you get back this year's first round pick and Gary Harris and RJ Hampton for Aaron Gordon? No,
and of course not. I mean,
of course you wouldn't.
RJ Hampton, I don't even think is in the league. This guy that Orlando just selected, I don't know this guy. And then Gary Harris just went to the falling apart Milwaukee Bucks. So no.
Right. Real quick, one team out of the East that we didn't mention. I think the Cavs will be a tough out in the East next year. It'll probably be the Cavs and the Knicks vying to get out of the East. Boston's in a semi-rebuild. How crazy is that, by the way? Like, they won a title
wild
in 2024, and they're basically rebuilding that team. I mean, a mini rebuild. I've seen rumors that Jaylen Brown might get traded. Jason Tatum's going to be out all next year. The East is just there's no depth in the Eastern Conference. Like, the West has been significantly better than the East for 20 plus years now. I mean, it is pretty crazy how dominant the Western Conference has been over the East over the last 20 years.
You could probably nitpick a year or two here and there, but if we're talking about for a stretch, I mean, the East hasn't had the West's number in a significant stretch since Michael Jordan.
Right. Exactly. I mean, yes, you have, championship teams that come out of the East, but just looking at the conferences overall, I mean, it's not even close. It's really not even close. So look, man, this is a great day if you're a Denver Nuggets fan. There's no doubt about it. I mean, like I said earlier, they didn't just get a little bit better. They got significantly better. They really did. I had zero hope of them being able to compete for a championship next year as they were currently constructed. But now the expectation should be, Nuggets fans, for this team to win a championship next year. Mm-hmm. Period.
Yep.
If they don't win a championship next year, it's a disappointment.
It's
no doubt about it. It's a failure if they don't win a title next year. There's no doubt about it. And look, let me give ownership some credit. And I know I sound like a kiss ass when I say this, but I really do. But I really do mean this. One of my other kind of takes in this whole thing was, and I've seen this from a lot of Nuggets fans. And look, Nuggets fans are absolutely 100% in the right to point this out. Nikola Jokic most likely will be the best player to ever wear a Denver Nuggets jersey. Ever. Like, we'll never see a player like him again. I hope we do, but the chances of that, it took the team 50 years to find a dude like this, okay? 50 years, KJ. So the chances are, we'll say it this way, the chances of them finding a player that is as good as Nikola Jokic the rest of our lives is very small, the percentage of them finding that. But they have him right now, and they have him in his prime. He's 30 years old. He's smack dab right in the middle of his prime, and the ownership group said, We cannot waste Nikola Jokic's prime. And to be honest with you, the last 2 years, it felt like they were wasting Nikola Jokic's prime. And I know that didn't sit well with me. I know it didn't sit well with you. I know it didn't sit well with a lot of Nuggets fans. But this help eases the pain of the last 2 years. It's not that they got knocked out. It's the fact that it didn't feel like they were really all in during Joker's prime. That's what it felt like. Right now, it feels like they're all in on Joker's prime. Does it not?
No, I agree 1,000%. I mean, the moves that they've made definitely exemplify a team and a structure and a front office that understands the importance of being all in on Nikola Jokic's prime, right? And again, I know Josh Kroenke took a lot of heat for his comments about I don't ever want to have to consider trading number 15. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, I know people took it out of context, but I think he said that in front of his new front office for a reason, because he wanted to look to his left and he wanted to look to his right. And he says, I have gone out on a limb in this press conference and said something that is very controversial. And I want you guys to hear me just as well as I'm telling the media, okay? Because I don't want to ever be in this position. Please, guys, I brought you in to help me out. So I don't want you guys to put me in a position where I ever had to even that thought has to even crossed my mind. So factoring that in, I think they understand the mission. They get it. They understand it. And so Nikola Jokic's prime is the antithesis of what they were ultimately trying to build from the beginning, which is a championship team that could last and span over years. Sometimes you just need a bridge to get you there.
Yeah, a lot of people in the comments are talking about trading Jamal Murray. Here's what I would say about that, okay? First of all, they're not trading Jamal Murray for this upcoming season, okay? They're just not going to do that, and I don't think they should do that. Now, if he comes into the season out of shape like he did last year, if he struggles, if he's inconsistent, has those peaks and valleys that we've talked about with Jamal's game throughout the course of the next regular season, and we don't see a consistent playoff Jamal next year, okay, then we can have a real conversation about should they move on from Jamal Murray. But I'm telling you, they're not going to move on from Jamal Murray this season. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like, if you're going to say trade Jamal, that's fine. I mean, you can have your opinion. That's great. But you can't just say get rid of him. Okay, who are you getting rid of him for? Does the money work? Does the player work as far as the team structure goes? I mean, all of these things have to be considered. It's what would drive us crazy, you and I, KJ, about people saying fire Malone. Now, ultimately, they did, which I'm fine with if you're going to say that. But you can't just say, oh, fire Malone. Oh, trade Jamal. Well, you got to give me like the scenario that makes sense, that makes this team better. If you're going to trade Jamal for a player that makes the team better, I'm all ears. Yeah. But if you just say trade Jamal just to trade him, that's not how business is done in pro sports. You can't do business like that.
No, not at all. And again, I keep wrecking my brain. I keep trying to look around the league. I'm thinking about the money works, right? I'm trying to think about the player who maybe, not exactly, but the closest profile to Jamal Murray as far as makeup, mindset, intensity, dog nature, heart, all of that kind of stuff, right? So we're factoring all of that into the equation, right? The only other point guard that I would think makes sense here in Denver, other than Jamal Murray, would be De'Aaron Fox. But De'Aaron Fox is not leaving San Antonio. They literally just traded for him a few months ago. So with that being the case, like we got to understand this is who Jamal Murray is. And if I'm being brutally honest, guys, Nuggets Nation, I'm talking to you. If I'm being brutally honest, they just traded away one punching bag. That means you want to trade away the other punching bag? Who else would you punch? So, I mean, let's just be honest here. Like, I know you Nuggets Nation, when they lose or when they're going through tough times, you guys always need someone to punch, okay? And if Jamal and MPJ aren't here, who would that be? And I don't want Christian Brown to become the punching bag. It's just not his time to fulfill that role yet.
Okay. Yes. Well said. Totally get it. Like I said, Jamal's not going anywhere for this year. Like I said, if he struggles, if he comes into camp out of shape like he did last year, if we don't see the playoff Jamal come playoff time, then let's have a conversation, okay? So we'll just kind of leave that where it is. Now,
Absolutely.
Speaking of, let's talk a little Brucey B. First of all, massive W for Tenzer and Wallace to get him on the vet minimum.
The vet
that is a massive W for the front. That's impressive. And then you factor in the Saric Valanciunas trade, like some very impressive moves from these young guys. Very, very impressive. Somebody was asking on our PhD show today on the text line. I thought it was kind of an interesting question. Do you think, KJ, that at various points throughout the season, we could see Bruce Brown inserted into the starting lineup and have Christian come off the bench like we saw in 2023? Do you think that's a possibility? I will just say I highly doubt that's going to be the case, because not anything, negative on Bruce Brown, but I thought Christian Brown was a badass last year, man.
Bro,
like
monster, bro.
He was a monster. That dude can ball, and he improved. The jump he took from year 2 to 3, I thought was significant. I mean, Christian Brown is developing into one of the top two-way guards in the entire NBA. I mean, this guy, I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet either. I've always said this about Christian. If he can just get a little bit more consistent with his outside shot, that dude is going to light the NBA on fire. That's what I think of Christian Brown. So to have the Brown and Brown duo back, first of all, that's just awesome. Defensive attorneys at law, the Brown and Brown law firm, as I call them. I think you keep Christian in the starting lineup. What he showed last year was, to me, more than enough to say, no, Christian's the starter. Brucey B, you come off the bench. The reason I'm bringing this up, KJ, is because the year they were both here together in Christian's rookie season, the year they won the title, they both came off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Christian took KCP's starting spot when he left in free agency for Orlando. So now you have a scenario where Christian was this full-time starter last year at the 2-guard spot, and Bruce Brown will now be coming off the bench, whereas Christian is starting. I would just be curious your thoughts on how you think David Adelman will kind of run that dynamic duo there of Brown and Brown.
I think that's a great question, Dan. I don't think anyone can go and begin the process of either planting or just full-on gardening another garden and then come back to your original garden and say, I'm going to pick up right where I left off. I don't think you have that luxury if you're Bruce Brown. So if I'm Bruce Brown, this is, again, about maximizing the role that the Nuggets give me. I am on a championship contending team. That's something that I unfortunately got away from in Indiana. For whatever reason, it didn't work. We don't know. We'll never know. But for what it's worth, I'm back to a championship contending team, right? So I've got to maximize my role. Christian Brown has next. They've cleared the way for Christian Brown to get paid coming up next offseason. I'm keeping in the back of my mind that it could happen this offseason. He's extension eligible this offseason. I'm keeping it in the back of my head, but I'm going to assume the Nuggets are going to hold it off until next offseason because there'll be a lot of, those contracts that'll be coming out the books between rookie contracts and expiring contracts. So I'm thinking they're going to wait till next year, right? Mm-hmm. Factoring all of that in, Christian Brown has earned this spot, right? He sat, he waited his time. He was patient. He developed, right? KCP leaves. Christian Brown steps in, barely missed a beat. Some people say that he not only exceeded his expectations, but he probably was better than KCP, right? So with that being the case, you can't tell me a guy in Bruce Brown who was a role guy before he left and is a role guy coming back can just step into the starting role. I think that's disrespectful to the guy who's put in the work and who has aligned himself to get this next contract he's going to get, which is going to be north of $25 million per year, if we're being brutally honest.
It's easily going to surpass $25 million a year. I don't think there's any question about that. So I'm with you. Look, Christians are in that spot. That's his spot. Well, if he struggles, then maybe they can revisit that. But I don't envision that happening, KJ. From what I did Christian last year, Man, was I impressed by that guy. Okay, so let's kind of revisit the Michael Porter Jr. trade to the Brooklyn Nets for Cam Johnson. That was what kicked this whole thing off. I mean, this happened, right just over 24 hours ago. We got the Shams bomb about the Nuggets trading MPJ.
Who knew the Nuggets was still the first day of free agency?
I did not have that on my bingo card. And the fact that it just kept going today was awesome. Good for us in sports radio, right? July. I mean, this was a gift from God. So thank you, NBA. So the Nuggets trade Michael Porter Jr. and an unprotected 2032 first-round pick to the Nets for Cam Johnson. Now, here's why I like the move, okay? I want to get into the MPJ aspect of this here in just a second with you, KJ. But here's why I like the move for the Nuggets, specifically regarding Cam Johnson. Is Cam Johnson as good of a shooter as Michael Porter Jr., just pure shooter? I would say no, but he's right there. I mean, this guy is a potent outside shooter, okay? He is. I mean, he is just a hair below Michael in that regard.
Agreed.
But Cam is far more talented off the dribble, something Michael could just never, for whatever reason, he never was able to develop that. He was never able to develop the ability to take guys off the dribble one-on-one. Which this team has sorely lacked over the last couple of years. A dude that can just go one-on-one. I mean, Jamal will do it in spurts, and he's pretty good at it. But as far as one of their wing players being able to do that, they really just haven't had that. So that's a massive upgrade there. He'll be able to take guys one-on-one off the dribble like Michael Porter Jr. just never was able to, okay?
Right.
So that's the first thing that I think is a massive upgrade with Cam Johnson over MPJ. The second thing that's an upgrade, not a little upgrade, a massive upgrade, is Cam Johnson is much better defensively. He's much more reliable defensively. And Michael just could never – he improved on the defensive end, but the Michael we saw over the last couple of years defensively, I think he's reached about his ceiling on the defensive end. I think that's – when it comes to defense, I think where Michael is now – is his ceiling as far as his ability to be a defender in today's NBA. I mean, would you say that's fair?
No, I would definitely say that's more than fair when we're talking about MPJ. I think when we're looking at how MPJ plays defense, he's more of like a guy he's usually the guy that has to rotate over, right? He's the rotate over guy, which means you got to pay extra attention to detail. And there were just way too many times. I mean, listen, I would need like a third and fourth hand to count the number of times in a game where he should be way ahead of rolling over on the pick and roll as the roll guy, right, on the defensive end. And he's just standing there. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He's like, do I stay with the guy that's on the 3-point line, or do I roll to the guy that's actually rolling downhill, right? You got to trust the guys around you to rotate, right? That's what they teach you in basketball one-on-one. And it's just like sometimes it just felt like he could not get the concept of being the guy that if they're in the pick and roll, man, like the roll guy is going to be faster than the guy that's trying to decide should he go with the roll guy or should he stick with the guy that's setting the pick, right? Like it's just common sense. And so Cam Johnson instinctually defensively is just farther along than MPJ. He's just
significantly further along.
Significantly.
Yes.
And it's just what the Nuggets needed. They needed way more on defense than they ever did on offense. They could always find guys to fill up the basket. Finding guys that could get a stop that helped Nikola Jokic should be like, okay, guys, like, all right, way to string together 5 to 6 stops in a row. And we were able to get 4 baskets on the other end in those 6 possessions, right? So that's just where we are with Cam Johnson versus MPJ. We got a guy that's just way more consistent. Consistency is key when we're talking about maximizing the championship window.
Yeah, and I'm with you as far as the offense goes. I've never been concerned about the Nuggets offense. I mean, you have the best offensive genius that I've ever seen play the game of basketball in Nikola Jokic. So the offense has never been an issue for me. They've had points where they've struggled a little bit offensively, but they've always found ways to figure it out. And Joker is just so smart. He has the supercomputer basketball brain that he ultimately figures things out even in game where if they're struggling. But the one area on the offensive end that this team has been sorely lacking, like I just mentioned a little bit ago, is that guy that can take you one-on-one in situations that require that. If you need a dude to go get you a bucket one-on-one off the dribble, Michael Porter Jr. was not your guy.
Nope.
Cam Johnson can do that. He can do that. So I think as far as the offensive end goes, his outside shooting will take a tiny dip for Michael Porter's, just a tiny one, okay? Because Cam is a potent outside shooter.
He is.
But what he adds off the dribble and his ability to go one-on-one is something this team has been lacking for several years now. So I think they really, really got a significant upgrade with that. KJ, how will Michael Porter be remembered as a Denver Nugget?
I think Michael Porter will be remembered as a intricate part of a championship team. He was part of a core that gave, Nuggets Nation something that they couldn't have dreamed of ever seeing in their lifetime, right? You had so many great teams of the past with the Nuggets. It was the 2022-2023 team that finally got them over the hump and helped them to achieve and just feel something that was just it was like a burning sensation down on the inside of their soul. And so Michael Porter Jr. will be responsible as being one of the core members of that, right? And he'll also be remembered as probably the greatest shooter in Nuggets history. And yeah, he won't have the 3-point makes. He won't have all of the, percentages when it's all said and done to truly fulfill that title. But for the ones who know, they know that Michael Porter Jr. was just an absolute sniper. And what he brought on that end of the court, just his shooting ability, really opened up the lane more times than not than we want to talk about for Aaron Gordon to be able to be in the dunker spot. Because you knew as a defender, you could not sag off of MPJ. You just couldn't do it. So Aaron Gordon just had way more room down there to do things. It allowed at times for Jamal Murray to be able to go one-on-one at times because he knew on the strong side of the court that MPJ's defender was not going to leave him that often. So I just thought MPJ, he just had a presence as a shooter. He just had a presence as just like an all-around, just really good guy on and off the court to just really just be able to just be a great teammate, man. He was great in the community. Did he have his blips with different podcasts and things he said? Absolutely, but who doesn't from time to time?
Seriously.
You know what I mean? So, look, I will always say MPJ was a great teammate. He was just a great all-around person, and he was just great with the media, man. And as Vic put it, he was just always available. You don't have stars who are always available, right? We got stars in that locker room.
Look at Russell Westbrook.
I was just about to say, we have stars in that locker room who we can say that about today, let alone a few months ago, right? Yeah. And so it's just like, man, Michael Porter Jr., my guy, man, I just want to say thank you for all that you brought to Nuggets Nation, man. 2018, the Nuggets took a chance on you. They didn't know what they were going to get. They were just hoping and praying that a guy who was number one in his high school class would be just even just a snippet of what that was, and he was more than that. He was a 3-point shooter. He was a solid rebounder. He was a guy that loved to crash the offensive glass. Was he the strongest? No. So sometimes he did get bullied, but nonetheless, he brought great things on the court, and he was just a great teammate, great in the community. And at the end of the day, Michael Porter Jr., you will always be a champion with the Denver Nuggets, and no one will ever be able to take that away from you. So, man, appreciate you so much, Mike.
Isn't it so nice? Isn't it so much easier to be able to move on from guys when they've won a championship? It's like, yeah, it sucks they're gone, but at least they got a title, It's a little bit, it was kind of like I felt that way with Nazem Kadri and the Avs. It sucked to see him go. I still think they made a mistake, but it's
we're not getting into that today.
Yeah, well, that'll be for a different podcast. They did make a mistake, in my opinion, but that's okay. But my point is, it's like, well, yeah, but they got a title with them, and that kind of helps ease the pain a little bit. That's kind of how I feel with Michael. You brought up the draft, the 2018 draft, and we're talking about how will Michael Porter Jr. be remembered as a Denver Nugget? Going back to that draft, you're right, KJ. Before the back injury at Missouri, he was the projected number 1 pick in that draft.
Dude,
Now, if you remember,
Michael Porter Jr. was on the verge of like Luka Doncic level generational, not same skill set.
He was on the verge of like a Kevin Durant type prospect.
Dude, he was that type of guy before the injury. Like, I don't think a lot
Chauncey
of Nuggets,
Billups said on draft night his player comp was Kevin Durant.
Dude, Nuggets Nation, I don't think they fully understand who MPJ was supposed to be.
Go look at his high school highlights.
Dude, he was a beast Incredible. In high school.
So he has the back injury at Mizzou. He only plays in a handful of games while at Missouri. He tried to come back in the tournament. It just wasn't working, right?
Right.
So he slips in the draft. And I understood that, right? Makes sense. Well, the Nuggets are sitting at the very end of the lottery, pick 14. Guess where Stan went to college there, or Josh went to college there, KJ? Missouri.
Why am I not surprised?
He was their guy. But I remember going back to that draft. And the Nuggets, Shea was in that draft too, SGA. And he was picked just a couple spots ahead of MPJ in that draft. The Clippers actually had 2 picks before the Nuggets took Michael Porter Jr. The other was Jerome Robinson, I want to say. So SGA has turned into an MVP. Jerome Robinson, I don't think he's even in the NBA anymore. So they hit on one of them.
Never heard of him.
But Michael was there at 14. And everybody was like, if he can get right from his back procedures, the Nuggets got to steal. Now, it never worked out to the level that I had hoped, to where he was like, it never worked out to where he was Nikola Jokic's all-star teammate. That's kind of what I was hoping or envisioning if he was able to come back from the back problem. So in that sense, I was a little bit disappointed with the tenure of Michael Porter Jr. in Denver. Now, on the flip side of that, thinking back of his time here with the Nuggets, and you brought up some really good points, he had to have another back surgery. Well, first, after they drafted him, he had to get a cleanup procedure, and then he gets hurt again. So he had 3 total back surgeries, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he was able to come back from that, and last year played in 81 of 82 games, and the only game he missed wasn't because of an injury. It's because they brought the wrong shoes to LA. He didn't have the shoes he needed. So it wasn't injury related.
Right.
So the fact that he was able to come back from that and really be consistent on the court, consistently he was on the court over the last couple of years, which to me is one of the biggest accomplishments of his career. I mean, this guy was told by doctors he might never play basketball again. So the fact that he was not only able to come back from that, he was able to win a championship with this team, able to overcome the back surgeries and be on the court as much as he was, is quite honestly was shocking to me. And then you add in all the off the court stuff that he was not involved in, but he had some family members, a couple of his brothers got into some serious off the court stuff. Mm-hmm. The fact that he was able to sort of push that in the back of his mind and continue being a consistently on the court and, a good starter for the Nuggets is how I will remember Michael Porter Jr. Overall, very successful time here with the Denver Nuggets. Now, did he leave, at least for me, a little to be desired? Yes, he did. But if you kind of take a step back and look at the big picture of his time here, that was a successful draft pick for the Nuggets. Absolutely. No doubt about it. And then it ends in them getting Cam Johnson, which is a win.
For sure. Well, let me ask you this before we move on from MPJ. You said he may have left some things desired. Like,
yes.
I don't think this is a conversation we don't have enough, though. We didn't know what his ceiling was going to be after the injury, right? We didn't know what his ceiling was going to be. What if this is his ceiling? What if he maxed out?
I think it is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, with the ceiling he's given us, we had higher expectations for him. The injury he had was going to limit him regardless. So just looking at this being the ceiling, thank you for what you've given us, right? Like, would we have liked him to develop more on the offensive end? Would we have liked him to be better on the defensive end? Of course, but that's looking through the lens of a perfect world. If we're looking in reality, the ceiling that he has given us after the injury he had coming out of high school, going into college, this is more than I think we could have ever asked for.
Well, I get what you're saying. And like I said earlier, the fact that he was able to play as much as he did after the back surgeries truly was incredible.
Sure.
It really
Yeah.
was. There's
No
no
doubt.
doubt about that. But KJ, here's my only kind of qualm with his time in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I can't tell you how many times I would go to cover Nuggets games and I would just sit right there on the court to watch Michael Porter Jr. do his pregame warmup because I haven't seen anybody in the NBA before or since that has a prettier, purer jump shot than that guy does. I mean, I could just sit there for an hour and watch him put up jumpers. I mean, it's that special. It really is. That was the one thing where I was like, man, if this guy can just put it all together on a consistent basis, like that dude is talented enough to where he should be able to average 25 points a game. In my opinion. So that's the only
he's going to have that. He's going to have that chance now.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if he can do that. And that's a good point. Was it because he just has the inability to do that? Was it the Nuggets structure, playing with Nikola Jokic where he's distributing it to everybody and not just one guy? Maybe. Yeah. Is it because, the two-man game was a big part of this team's offense and it still will be moving forward between Joker and Jamal Murray? Are those reasons? Maybe.
Yeah.
But it felt like Michael had the potential to be Nikola's first ever all-star teammate. That's what it felt like to me. So, look, overall, his time here with the Denver Nuggets was a massive success. They won a title. He was able to come back from the back surgeries and be on the court on a consistent basis. I mean, that right there, it's a W, okay? So don't get me confused by me saying there were some shortcomings in his time with the Nuggets, which I do think there were. So,
yeah,
kind of my thoughts on Michael.
That's A-okay. That's A-okay. And he'll get a chance with the Brooklyn Nets to see how can he operate as a number one or number two option. So I'm intrigued to see how that looks. Will they have much success in Brooklyn? I'm not banking on it, but anything's possible, I guess. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. All right, last thing here before we get out of here, KJ. Here's your current Nuggets depth chart. You ready for this?
No, talk
Point
to me.
guard: Jamal Murray, Christian, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, Joker. Okay, pretty similar. Other than you're swapping Cam Johnson and Michael Porter, they're going to be one of the best, if not the best, starting five in the NBA, like they were over the last couple of years.
Yep.
Now here's where it gets really good, and where the Nuggets have had their shortcomings over the last couple of seasons. Here's your bench. Right now, these are kind of interchangeable, right? Like, that's what's so great about bringing Bruce Brown in, and he truly is. He's the Nuggets Joker. You know how Sean Payton says he wants a Joker on offense? Bruce Brown is the Nuggets Joker. He's their Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
So right now, this is just ESPN, and this is obviously, this can change. It's a malleable thing.
Right.
But they have Jalen Pickett backing up Jamal, Julian Strawther backing up Christian Brown. Now, I don't think they have updated this to have Tim Hardaway. No, he's on here. I think Tim Hardaway will be playing at least early on over Julian Strawther. We'll see what Adelman decides to do, but I think that's kind of how this will look. But then you have Bruce Brown. They have backing up Cam Johnson. Peyton Watson's backing up Aaron Gordon. And then you got Jonas Valanciunas backing up Nikola Jokic. I mean, that's your bench. Jalen Pickett, Julian Strawther.
They have Peyton Watson right now?
Right now, ESPN's depth chart has Peyton Watson listed as Aaron Gordon's backup.
I think Deron Holmes going to give him all he can ask for.
Well, and that's the guy that kind of gets lost in the shuffle in all this, right?
He sure does.
Unfortunately, I'm very high on Deron Holmes. Now, it sucked that he tore his Achilles in Summer League last year, but he should be ready to go at the start of the regular season.
I think so. Because Summer League will give him a chance to kind of knock some of the rust off. And then from there, he can be able to kind of see, how do I feel? How does my body feel? How did I feel mentally? And then from there, he can go into training camp like, hey, let's hit the ground running.
Like he'll trust in that Achilles by the time training camp gets here. Hopefully that's the case.
I hope so.
I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see much of Deron Holmes early on in the season. I do think David Adelman will make it a point to get him minutes throughout the course of the regular season to kind of see what they've got. But here's the thing, KJ, the beauty of what the Nuggets front office just did. If he's not ready, that's okay, because they have so much depth without him that they don't need to rush him back. Now, I think it would be smart of the team to get a look at him. If he's ready to go, play him.
Right.
Let's see what they got. Let's see what you got, Deron Holmes, because like I said, Bruce Brown, Hardaway, like these guys are on 1-year deals. So this might be a case where Deron Holmes, they might not need him as much this year, but after this season, he might be the guy.
Yes.
So I would like to see him at least get some run this year to see what they've got, right? But the bench, man, Pickett, Strother, Bruce Brown, Peyton Watson, Valanciunas, Holmes, Tim Hardaway.
Man.
This is as deep of a bench as anybody's got in the NBA. And the Nuggets basically just pulled this off in less than 24 hours. Truly remarkable.
So here's the thing. John Tenzer, and again, going back to the top, John Tenzer and John Wallace. I'm sorry, Ben Tenzer and John Wallace. I'm screwing up the names.
Ben Wallace, Piston great.
Dude, they've
Loved
had
Ben Wallace.
I did too, man. One of the greatest defensive players in NBA history.
Stud.
Just absolute monster. And if I remember correctly, he went undrafted as well. So again, another great story. So, look, this is just where we are, man. This is where the Nuggets are. The Nuggets have done a great job. As I was saying a few minutes ago, John Wallace, Ben Tenzer, they've created this plan. They've had a plan coming into the interview. They've executed that plan, and that plan has worked to perfection.
Well, and KJ, just real quick, the fact that they had this plan, dude, these guys got hired like 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
No, I know Tenzer's been there, but Wallace was in Minnesota.
He left,
that they had the fact that they were able to do this quickly is remarkable.
So
it's remarkable.
Let me ask you this though, because we've heard little rumblings, little breadcrumbs here and there about MPJ kind of being like the unspoken untouchable. How do you think they were able to sell Josh Kroenke on MPJ being the guy that would unlock everything that they wanted and needed?
Well, my guess would be when Tenzer and Wallace went to Josh and said, hey, we're thinking about trading Michael. What I would hope that Josh's first question would be, well, if we trade Michael, are we getting better? That's it.
Yeah.
Is it going to make this team better? Is it going to make this team's ability to win a championship in the Jokic era more likely if we trade Michael? That's it, right?
Yeah, agreed.
And I think the answer to that question is yes. Cam Johnson does make this team better. Period. Overall, defensively, off the dribble, you still have that really good outside shooter. Again, just a tick below MPJ. That's the only thing Michael has over Cam, in my opinion, as far as an upgrade, is his shooting. But we're splitting hairs here because Cam Johnson, like I said, is a potent outside shooter as well. Go back to the 2021 Suns Nuggets playoff series. Cam Johnson hit some big time threes in that series.
You sure
where
did.
The Suns swept the Nuggets. So this guy has an ability to knock down outside shots, and he will. And I'm telling you, Nuggets fans, you're going to love Cam Johnson, and Cam Johnson is going to love playing with Nikola Jokic, and Joker is going to love Cam Johnson as well. So, look, man, there's no doubt about it. The Nuggets got significantly better over the last 24 hours to the point where I didn't think they really had a chance to win a title next year. Now I think they should be considered one of, if not the favorite to win the NBA championship next year. That's how much better I think the Nuggets got. So any other final thoughts here, KJ, before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'll just kind of end with this. Again, super duper credit to the Nuggets front office. They got rid of Dario Saric.
And the fact that they were able to do it in such a quick time span of when they got hired.
Dude.
Again, I know Tenzer was here, but the fact that they were able to pull this off with the limited amount of time they had together is quite honestly shocking.
It is shocking. A lot of this is shocking. So I just want to continue to give credit to that front office for the moves that they've made in the way that they've done it as well. Where will Zeke Naji fall in all of this? We don't know. That's something we got into on
that
our
is
show
a
today.
Great question.
Do
what
you
happens
keep him?
with
Do you
Zeke
trade
Naji?
him?
Well, okay, real quick. Let's get into that. I don't see any reason for them to keep Zeke Naji. Like, I don't. Let me ask you this, KJ. Will Zeke Naji, do they need him to play this year?
Do they need him to play
do they need him to have a role on the court this year? I don't think they do. What's his role going to be?
No, but I will say this much. If I'm kind of getting into like a GM's brain for a quick second here, I think the reason you keep Zeke Naji around is because you don't know what you have in Deron Holmes. You're hoping he comes back 100%. Zeke Naji could still be a depth piece.
But I want those minutes going to Deron Holmes to see what they've got in this kid.
I do too, man.
They know what they've got in Zeke Naji.
I'm just saying, God forbid, and we're knocking on wood, right? We're knocking on wood that Deron Holmes does not have any kind of setbacks with his injury. He appears to be 100%. We heard rumblings that that in a perfect world, had the Nuggets gotten to the NBA Finals, maybe Deron Holmes could have seen some time. We know that's not the case. But again, perfect world, right? So if we're looking at it from that standpoint, we're believing that Deron Holmes is 100%. But if for some reason he's not, he doesn't have the confidence in himself. He has a setback. Knock on wood, he doesn't. But it's just the reality. Could Zeke Naji still be a depth piece in the front court? I'm not ruling it out. Do we need him, to go back to your question from a few minutes ago? No, we don't need him.
He's their break glass in case of emergency.
Absolutely. And that's what Dario Saric was supposed to be.
Man. How will Dario Saric be remembered in Denver, his time in Denver? We just talked about how Michael Porter Jr. will be remembered. How will Dario Saric be remembered in Denver?
Dude, he will be remembered as the biggest lump of garbage that I think I've ever taken out to the dumpster. So, I mean, that thing was heavy. That thing was unnecessary. I mean, I don't even know what was in that bag.
I'm laughing, KJ, because it's true. It's kind of mean, but I get what you're saying, and it's 100% true.
Dude, listen, our listeners, they come to us because they're coming here for the facts. They're coming here because we're the home of the Nuggets. But more importantly, they come to us because we're honest, right?
Yeah.
And that's something
he was
that
awful. That was a big swing and a miss.
We say on this podcast.
So, and think of it this way, man. Think of it this way. Last year, the Nuggets' big splashes were Russ and Dario Saric. Think of where we are a year later. The moves that have been made.
Oh, man.
Hey, by the way, you think Nikola Jokic is happy with the moves that the Nuggets made in the last 24 hours? Do you think he's feeling a little bit more giddy about the upcoming season? Do you think Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray are feeling a little bit better about the upcoming? You think he's pissed?
No.
I was like, wait, why? You think the vets on this team are feeling a little bit better about the prospects of next year and their ability to compete for a championship? I think these guys are elated. And sure, I saw Aaron Gordon post on his Instagram. First of all, they already know Bruce Brown, and they all love Bruce Brown, and Nuggets Nation loves Bruce Brown. Who doesn't love Bruce Brown? So that in and of itself is awesome. Sure, they're going to miss Michael, the person, but on the court, man, you've got to think that the vets on this team, they know they got better. They know they got significantly better. Nikola Jokic knows that. Aaron Gordon knows that. Jamal knows that. Christian knows that. I don't think there's any doubt about it that this Denver Nuggets team just reinserted themselves into legitimate championship contention, which honestly, the last 2 years, they were not. They just didn't have the depth there. Now they do. So, hey, KJ, great stuff. Thanks for jumping on with me. Thank you to everybody for listening. This was awesome. I hope to do a couple of more, Nuggets type podcasts throughout the off season. We had to fire it up today just because this free agency that we just saw. I don't ever remember a time quite like this with the Denver Nuggets where they made, these big of moves, really. And it all kicked off with the trade of Michael Porter Jr. to the Brooklyn Nets with a 2032 unprotected first for Cam Johnson. That's what kicked this off, and then it just kind of kept rolling along into the night. And today, you guys had some breaking news on your show. We had some breaking news on our show. And we're going to continue reacting to this tomorrow on all the shows on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5 starting at 6 a.m. with Brett Kane. So make sure to tune in for that. And, these trades can't become official. What were you telling me that today, KJ? They can't become official until July 6th or 7th when the new league year officially starts?
Yes, that is correct. So that's why we haven't seen anything from the Nuggets, no posting, no emails, no nothing, because the trades and the signings technically are not official. This is still what we're considered
legal tampering
/ moratorium period. So,
right. So as soon as this becomes officially official, I mean, it's happening, but just they have to wait until the new league year starts. As soon as this becomes officially official, KJ and myself and Steve with the morning show, Spring with the afternoon show with Nate and Andy, we'll be working on getting some of these new guys on the station so that we can have a chance to chat with them, and so that Nuggets fans can get to know the new Denver Nuggets a little bit more. So we'll be working on with the Nuggets PR team, who's great. They work with us awesome. We'll be working on getting some of these guys on the station so that we can get to know them a little bit and kind of see what makes them tick. So look, man, I am beyond thrilled with what we just saw over the last 24 hours. Like I said, I can't emphasize enough how much better this made the Denver Nuggets, how much better it made them at the most crucial time where they needed to get better, because they have the best basketball player on the planet, the best player that this franchise most likely will ever have. I mean, I hope they find a guy that's as good or better than Joker, but the odds of that happening are very low because, like I said earlier, it took them 50 plus years to find a guy like Nikola Jokic. So
top 10 players in NBA history just don't, they don't.
He's on track to go down as one of the all-time greats. So the fact that the Nuggets didn't sit on their hands and they're going all in for Nikola Jokic's sake makes me feel a lot better. And I'm sure it makes a lot of Nuggets fans feel a lot better as well. So, going into the season, we always kind of have a thing at the radio station, KJ, between the Avalanche and the Nuggets. Who's more likely, or who has a better chance of winning a title? 24 hours ago, I would have said no question it's the Avalanche.
Yep.
I think the Nuggets just surpassed them. As far as, look, I'm not saying the Avs can't win a title, but I think if you were going to ask me what team has a better chance of winning a title next year, it's the Denver Nuggets because of the moves they made over the past 24 hours. So excellent stuff. KJ, I'll let you go. Appreciate it. And I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. All right.
See you tomorrow, my friend.
There he goes. Our guy, KJ Granderson. Just want to say, again, thank you to everybody for tuning in. And like I said, we're going to continue to react to all of this news coming up tomorrow. And honestly, the Nuggets might not be done. They might not be done. They still have a little wiggle room to work with. So we'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for the NBA free agency podcast right here on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Thank you to DMAC. Thank you to KJ. I'm Dan Tanner. You have been listening to Altitude Sports Radio's coverage of NBA free agency.